The story opens with a man swarmed by reporters. He's rich, famous, and rumored to have cleared an A-class dungeon and even defeated an S-class hunter. Everyone thinks he's a top-tier awakener. But here's the truth. He's not even close. In fact, he's just lucky and really good at bluffing. Internally, the protagonist reflects on how absurd this all is. He has no plans, no grand ambitions. He's a fraud in the hunter world, but no one knows his real secret. He's not even human. He was once an alien living on a hyper-advanced magical planet called Alfari. There, he worked like a dog. No breaks, no holidays, no sleep, no salary. The tech was so advanced, they didn't even need to sleep anymore. He was trapped in an endless loop of work with no way out. Trying to quit? Electric shocks? Teleport away? Tracked? Take down your boss? Forbidden by genetics? Even voluntary exit was blocked by biological restrictions. So, he came up with a crazy plan. Escape by doing something no one on his planet had ever succeeded at. Soul magic. After 10 years of research, he finally cracked it. He created a forbidden spell called soul manipulation, and with a mad laugh and full resolve, he launched his soul off-world, landing on Earth. After casting his soul magic, the protagonist drifts in light. When he regains consciousness, he blinks open a new pair of eyelids for the first time. The first thing he sees is a yellowish ceiling, followed by walls covered in an old, tacky floral pattern. He realizes he's in a very small, enclosed room, alone. When he tries to move, he sees a strange yellowish limb with 5 thin projections, his new human hand. He tests the body cautiously and goes through a short period of adjustment. There's no panic, he's confident. After all, he was the strongest mage from Alfari. What's a little reincarnation to a genius? Before casting the spell, he set specific parameters. He would reincarnate on a planet with strong magical power. His host would be the species with the highest intelligence. Even if it meant possessing a single cell, anything was better than Alfari. And it worked. He sits up. Time to test the next condition. Language. He speaks. Hello. To his relief, he's speaking perfect Korean thanks to extracting information from the brain of the corpse he possessed. Even after death, memories can linger if the brain and heart are still relatively fresh. That's how he learned the local language. But something's wrong. He should have inherited full memories from the previous owner, enough to blend in even with family. Instead, the memories are scattered and fragmented. He can't remember anything about the person whose body he took. Something about the possession didn't go fully as planned. Still processing, his body suddenly convulses. A sharp, burning pain rips through his stomach, as if his organs are melting in acid. He coughs, gasping in pain. The cause hits him like a flash of memory. The body died of starvation. He had been hoping to avoid decomposing corpses, but got a severely malnourished one instead. Reviving such a body came with consequences. His soul is still adjusting to this planet's magic, so he can't use spells right away. It will take about 3,600 seconds, 1 Earth hour. The pain is unbearable. He can't focus, can't think. His #1 priority becomes survival. Find food. He forces himself up and opens the door, dragging his starved body out of the room. Every movement is a struggle. His legs are heavy, unfamiliar. Eventually, he stumbles outside, and the sight overwhelms him. Light, warmth, dry air. It's the exact opposite of Alfari, which was cold, dark, and covered in oceans. He has no time for wonder. His stomach keeps gnawing at him. He looks for food, any food. But Earth isn't the wilderness he hoped for. Everything is paved in gray. There are no animals, no plants, just strange metal boxes on wheels, cars. He crawls, desperate, and finally spots an insect. But it's so small, he wonders if it's worth the energy to digest. While hesitating, he sees something in the distance. A small human, a child, holding a plastic bag. Inside is some kind of orange food. He stares at it, hypnotized. The child notices his gaze and quickly walks away, disappearing into an alley. He considers stealing it, but stops. Then he spots a road lined with decorative plants and tries to identify something edible. They don't look safe, but he's desperate. Just as he's about to gather the plants, boom, a loud roar echoes from the alley. Screams follow. He turns toward the sound and sees it. A massive, red-winged creature with shiny black eyes and a long, pointed yellow beak. A bird, but enormous. A monster. And so, after barely surviving reincarnation, after starving and crawling across a strange new planet, he finds himself face to face with a giant monster bird on a city street. After stumbling upon a giant red bird confronting a child in an alley, the protagonist, recently reincarnated into the body of a human, watches with calm detachment. The bird doesn't seem particularly aggressive at first. It's more like it's playing with the child, lightly poking him with its beak. Rather than fear, he's fascinated. A creature so similar to those from his home planet appearing here confirms a theory he'd once heard, that species on magical planets often share traits. Still, the bird is technically wild prey, and he's starving. He recalls that humans eat birds, and his body now qualifies as one. He decides that when his magic returns, he'll defeat the creature with ease. Then something unexpected happens. He senses something rising from the ground beneath him, a cold, liquid-like energy that flows through his new human cells. Magic. For the first time since his reincarnation, he feels the mana of Earth, and it's abundant, far beyond Alfauri. He falls to the asphalt, overwhelmed, declaring Earth to be a treasure trove of magic. Other planets were like buckets. Earth was a swimming pool. Drunk on mana, he licks the ground. That's when he notices the child and the bird staring at him, dead silent. The child calls out to him, trembling, "Mister, help me!" And so, against all odds, the child turns to the weird, magic-drunk stranger crawling on the ground. He agrees to help, but only in exchange for the ice cream the child had been eating. A deal is struck. Just then, the monster bird, provoked by the movement, dives at the boy. The protagonist steps in between them without fear. Confident in his skills as the former strongest wizard, he tries to cast magic. Nothing happens. He tries again. Still nothing. 10 seconds pass. He attempts all kinds of spells, explosions, water magic, curses. Still nothing. Despite the surrounding mana, his magic won't activate. His soul may have adapted quickly, but his new body hasn't fully adjusted. The truth sets in. He has no way to defend himself. The monster bird circles in the air and then dives, this time at him. The child escapes, but he becomes the new target. Panicked, he runs, but the body he's in has a problem. His right leg gives out mid-sprint. Pain shoots through his knee and he collapses. He realizes this body has a bad leg. It was never meant to run. He closes his eyes, expecting to die. Then, bang, a crash. He opens his eyes, and the giant bird is embedded face first in the cement. Dead. By pure chance, the monster slammed into the ground at full speed just as he fell. A complete fluke. Dumbfounded, he pokes the bird's limp body and confirms it really is dead. He's still starving, so he starts examining the bird to see if it's edible. Just then, chaos erupts again. From a nearby alley, a child yells for the police, claiming someone saved him. A group of Hunter Association members, including a woman with long black hair, arrives at the scene. They were tracking the creature, called a beginner killer, a deceptively fast and deadly bird monster that recently escaped from a nearby gate. Classified initially as E-Class, the beginner killer was upgraded due to its speed and lethality. Even C-Class hunters are often defeated before they can react, so when the team arrives and sees the monster limp in the hands of a thin, cold-faced man, they're stunned. They stare at the bird, then at him, then at the potholes the creature made from crashing into the ground. The strongest monster bird in the area, somehow defeated by that guy? Just after the monster incident, a woman in a black suit arrived at the scene. She had a calm but serious presence. Hunter Seon Wooyun, from the Hunter Association. As Kiryu looked around, he recognized the small child from earlier. The boy had brought others with him, local authorities. When the child pointed at Kiryu and called him uncle, Kiryu realized the boy had reported him as the one who protected him. A man in a blue uniform smiled and thanked Kiryu, assuming he was a passing hunter who took care of the monster. Meanwhile, Seon Wooyun examined the surroundings and the downed creature carefully. She seemed skeptical. The monster was fast, classified as a beginner killer, a creature known to take out inexperienced hunters before they can even react. And yet, it was lying there, unmoving, at this man's feet. She inspected the ground and the creature's impact point, eventually concluding that it might have crashed due to a miscalculated charge, but to survive that close? It meant Kiryu's reflexes had to be incredible. She reached out her hand, and Kiryu, catching on, shook it. Seon Wooyun asked if he was a freelance hunter, but Kiryu was confused by the term. He barely understood what a hunter ID even was. When pressed for it, he calmly replied that he didn't have it with him right now, buying time with a bluff. Crisis mostly avoided, he turned to more pressing matters, the orange snack the child had promised him in exchange for help. He reached out expectantly. The boy hesitated, but eventually handed over the frozen treat. Seon Wooyun looked on in disbelief as Kiryu chugged the sweet, icy liquid. His eyes lit up with joy. It was his first real taste of Earth's food, and despite everything, it felt amazing. As he savored the moment, Seon Wooyun's voice cut through the air. "Let's make it quick. What's your full name?" Kiryu froze. He didn't even know the name of the body he'd taken over. As she asked more questions about registration, awakening tests, and proper channels, her expression hardened. Using awakened abilities in public without being registered? That was a serious offense. Realizing he was in trouble, Kiryu blurted out another bluff. He had an ID at home and would bring it right away. Without waiting, he turned and walked off, fast, but not suspiciously fast. Thankfully, they didn't chase him. "Let's never go back down that road again," he muttered to himself. Back in his room, he started searching through everything. Eventually, he found a resident card, Kim Kiryu. That was his new name. But there was no Hunter ID anywhere in the room. He glanced into the bathroom and saw a mirror, his first chance to really see himself. Apricot skin, golden blonde hair with hints of black near the roots, and dark eyes. He was wearing a white shirt and black jacket, clothing that reminded him of Seon Wooyeon. Then, something clicked. He opened a small cabinet and found boxes of cigarettes. Another memory flickered in his brain. This body had been a heavy smoker. Suddenly, it all made sense. His magic hadn't worked. Not because the planet lacked mana, but because the lungs, which are essential for internal magic circulation, were damaged. Smoking had ruined the most critical organ for casting spells. In Alfari, people protected their lungs at all costs. But on Earth, people willingly damaged them. He was stunned and a little angry. But eventually, he calmed down. There had to be a solution. Even if his body was flawed, he wasn't going to give up on this new life. After finishing his search, the hunger returned. The ice cream hadn't been enough. That's when he remembered. There was a restaurant nearby, Sunhee's Pork Soup. He made his way there, ordered food, and for the first time in this life, ate a proper meal. The rich, hot soup filled his stomach. It was delicious. But his happiness didn't last long. He had no money, and when the shopkeeper asked for payment, Kiryu had no answer. So now, he's at the local police station. 2 officers had taken him in after the shopkeeper reported him for eating without paying. 1 minute he was slurping soup, and the next, he was explaining himself in a holding room. It wasn't the brightest moment of his second life, but at least he wasn't hungry anymore. After being taken to the police station for accidentally dining without paying, Kim Kiryu sits through questioning. The situation seems tense until one of the officers suddenly recognizes him. It turns out this is the same officer from earlier who had witnessed Kiryu at the scene with the monster. The mood shifts instantly. The officer is impressed, believing he's a hunter who took down a dangerous creature solo, and lets him off with a warning. Before letting him go, the officer excitedly urges Kiryu to get officially tested. He assumes Kiryu is newly awakened, and seeing as he took out a creature classified as C-class, the officer compares it to winning the lottery. Kiryu doesn't really understand what any of this means, but agrees to go with it to keep his cover. He heads to the Awakening Test Center, using the map the officer gave him. When he gets there, memories from the body he now occupies begin surfacing. Turns out, the original Kim Kiryu had already taken the test, and ranked at the bottom, F-class. At the test center, he runs into Seon Wooyeon again, the hunter from earlier. She asks about his missing hunter ID, and Kiryu finally admits he never had one. He recalls now, after seeing his disappointing test result, the original owner of the body never applied for an official license. When she hears he's F-class, Seon Wooyeon is shocked. The man who calmly stood before a charging C-class monster didn't act like an F-class at all. While Kiryu brushes it off as luck, she clearly doesn't believe him. He didn't flinch. He didn't panic. His presence alone suggested he was far above that rank. Despite her doubts, she doesn't press further and instead hands him an envelope. Money. She had claimed the remains of the monster he defeated earlier and sold it. Even after deducting cleanup costs, there was a solid payout. To Kiryu, this was a revelation. That creature, something he considered little more than a bird, was worth real money. Earth's system rewarded hunters well, and even a so-called weakling like him could profit just by playing along with the misunderstanding. And so, right then and there, a new goal entered his mind. He would become a hunter, not out of duty, not to protect people, but to live comfortably, and maybe enjoy a good meal now and then. With a new goal in mind, Kim Kiryu feels energized. He's going to become a hunter. His body is still weak, his knee is messed up, and his magic hasn't returned yet, but none of that dampens his excitement. After learning that monsters on Earth can be exchanged for money, his future finally seems hopeful. He remembers how easily he came across a beginner killer, and figures there must be even more monsters to hunt. That leads him to the conclusion: monsters come from gates, the rift-like entrances where creatures emerge from other dimensions. Even if he can't cast spells yet, his magic detection ability still works. So, he follows the mana trail until he locates a nearby gate and heads straight there. The gate is located on a hillside, wrapped in bright warning tape. Despite his aching leg and the slope nearly knocking him out, Kiryu pushes forward and steps into the gate. Inside, the atmosphere shifts completely. The air is thick and damp, the ceiling is covered in jagged rock formations, and the entire place feels like an underground cave. He walks deeper in, hoping to quietly observe a few earth monsters. But oddly enough, he doesn't see anything. No creatures, no movement, just eerie silence. He starts thinking maybe this gate is a bust, until he senses something new, a faint magical signature approaching. Other people have entered the dungeon. Around this time, a group of 4 licensed hunters also arrives at the gate. They've been dispatched to investigate strange changes in the dungeon's readings. It was supposed to be a low-risk area, but something has shifted. Still, they're confident. Led by a rising A-class hunter named An Yunsung, the team doesn't expect any trouble. But their relaxed mood shatters when the ground begins to tremble. A massive creature appears deep within the dungeon. One of the hunters gets caught off guard. The rest of the team tries to regroup and coordinate, but they're clearly outmatched. Despite being B-class and even A-class in rank, their attacks don't land effectively, and panic spreads fast. As Kiryu carefully approaches from the shadows, he listens in, trying to understand the situation. He watches as one of the shield-bearing hunters takes heavy damage trying to protect his team. Despite being seriously injured, the man steps forward again, stalling for time so their wizard can cast a sealing spell. But when the timer runs out, the wizard is gone. They ran away. The man had put his life on the line, and his teammate left him behind. Betrayed, injured, and with no strength left, the hunter slumps to the ground, resigned to what's coming. But then, Kiryu steps out from behind the rock. He looks up at the massive figure towering over the collapsed hunter and smiles. "Wow, I haven't seen one of you in a long time." The monster is a golem, a creature he knows all too well from his home planet. To him, it's not a threat. It's nostalgic, like running into an old clunky robot vacuum in a far-off galaxy. Kiryu stared up at the towering golem and smiled. To others, this might be a terrifying monster, but to him, it felt like a nostalgic surprise. Back on his home planet of Alfari, golems were part of everyday life. They did chores, ran errands, built cities, and even fought in wars. In fact, his entire field of expertise was weapon golem studies. So when he saw this earthen guardian standing in front of him, he wasn't afraid. He was fascinated. It didn't take long for him to figure out why this dungeon had been so empty. The golem wasn't a wild monster. It was a guard, set up to protect private territory, which meant he had just trespassed on someone else's land. Well, too late to back out now. The fallen hunter nearby stared in disbelief as Kiryu approached the golem casually, examining it like a technician inspecting a worn-out appliance. He knew how golems were structured. All autonomous models had a built-in emergency shutdown command, a safeguard in case they malfunctioned. Dodging a swing from the golem, Kiryu stepped in and tapped a precise pattern on a glowing core in its hand. Up, right, down, down, tap, tap, tap. The golem's eyes glowed red. Then, thud, the massive figure collapsed face first into the dirt. Kiryu didn't stop there. Knowing the shutdown was only temporary, he climbed onto the golem's back and popped open a panel with his bare hands. Reaching into its core, he yanked out the mana supply, the heart of the machine, rendering it completely powerless. Mission complete. Nearby, the badly wounded A-class hunter, An Yunsung, drifted in and out of consciousness. He'd once been proud of his success, having been scouted by guilds and rising fast through the ranks. But today, everything crumbled. His team had been wiped out when a monster far beyond their expectations appeared in the dungeon. In the moment he needed them most, his teammates abandoned him. Just when he accepted defeat, the golem had stopped moving. And now, someone was standing over him, a man in a black suit, calm, unshaken. With the same expressionless face he had before, this stranger had just taken down the golem alone, without any injuries, without even lifting a proper weapon. It didn't make sense. But then, the stranger simply reached out a hand. "Are you okay? Need help?" It was so casual, so normal. Once outside the dungeon, Yunsung finally managed to get cell service and contact his guild. Relief flooded in as he was told that help was on the way. One of the teammates who escaped must have reported what happened, but when he turned to thank his rescuer, he was gone. No name, no request for a reward, no trace. The mysterious hunter had vanished without a word. At first, Yunsung assumed he must have just been modest, but the more he thought about it, the more it felt intentional. Why would someone so strong sneak into a restricted gate and leave without explaining anything? And more importantly, who was he? The next day, Yunsung contacted his guild manager. He had a story to tell.